My name's Tim McMullen. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. Today's a little bit different. I've invited Carl Swearingen into, and I said your name wrong after I did that, Swearingen in from Funeral Directors Life. Kyle's been one of the only people to self-deploy Grooper. We've actually had more self-deployments in the last 2 years than we've ever had in the history of Grooper because we've been making it easier and easier to get done. But what I really like about what Kyle has done with the product is not only has he gotten all the extraction that he'll talk about, but he's able to show to his stakeholders the value of bringing automation in. And that's the part that struck our attention the most. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. Do definitely, if you have questions, ask them in the QA. Everybody's mics are muted. So go ahead and ask. I'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A. So as you have questions, feel free to answer or ask them in there, and then I will address those as we go on. Take it away, Kyle.
Yeah, so thanks, Tim. So a big part of all of our automation projects and anything that we've done with automation has been centered around having to prove the value of the automation, being able to prove to our stakeholders that the money we're investing in the technologies that we're using and the people we've got working on them are actually working and actually giving us the value that we're looking to have. And a big part of when we were evaluating Grooper was really understanding the base use cases that we wanted to try to solve with it and fully understanding exactly what kind of time savings we would achieve by implementing it and what kind of money we would save by implementing those types of automations and what kind of reduction we would have in having to hire. Because right in 2020, we got hit with a big influx in volume that we had to account for. So we were either having to automate or hire, and we chose to try to automate. So I'm going to start with the kind of the dashboard reporting side of things. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm going to show you guys some of the dashboards that we started with. And can you see my screen okay, Tim? Can y'all see the dashboard?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes, it looks great.
So this is the dashboard we initially built for doing a lot of our extraction. So the first project that we did was doing handwritten contracts that were coming in the building. So those handwritten contracts took on average about 8 minutes a contract for us to key. And we didn't really key 100% of the data. So we weren't getting all the data into our line of business system. We weren't getting the integration points across all of our different software platforms consistent with our digital contracts, which we had all that data for. So this was our initial use case, and we wanted to understand what kind of time savings we were kind of actually achieving with automating the paper contract side of things. But on top of that, we also wanted to see how well Grooper was actually performing and create dashboards that allowed us to go make tweaks and understand what was working, what wasn't working, without having to really rely on users to tell us something wasn't working right. So we built this dashboard, and there's a lot happening here, but ultimately what this shows us is the states that we've got contracts coming in for, each state's individual accuracy rating. So you can see South Dakota's doing great. Texas is in a good spot. Pennsylvania, almost 80% accurate. Michigan, 78%. So we've got a lot of different things here. And then we can even filter by state code. So if I wanted to look at specifically Texas, that's a great look. Let me refresh that. It's been sitting there for a second, so it timed out on us. And we built all these dashboards we are an OnBase Hyland customer, so we used a lot of their stuff there to kind of help us build these dashboards. But all of this data was stuff that came directly out of Grooper. So I can filter it down to Texas and just look at Texas's summer statistics over time. I can look at individual contract accuracy ratings. So you can see we had one at 94% accuracy. We've had a bunch in the 90s. And then I can look at year over year and month by month comparisons of accuracy over time. And the reason you see the dip is we're just processing more volume. So we've got more contracts coming in. But the other piece I'll point out here is we were able to show what was missed and what was incorrect. And we're doing that by taking a lot of the data, looking at the metadata. We're taking a snapshot of the metadata after extraction, and then we're taking a snapshot of the data after review. So we can actually see what's being missed, what's incorrect, and then we can actually look at these and see which ones need further adjustments. And then up here at the top, we can kind of show total hours saved, total number of contracts we've done, number of employees that we've saved, and then our onboarding costs associated with it. So we're actually able to associate a dollar amount to the automation solution that we roll out. We can do this for every solution that we roll out with Grooper. So the other side of this that I'll show is our intake, because this one's really fun to look at. So we've officially moved all of our intake for all of our incoming paper documents, email documents, documents uploaded on the web. All of that is now rolling through Grouper, because a lot of times you may even ask, why do it on the web? Well, a lot of times people misclassify things or upload just a bunch of garbage into our web apps. And it takes someone looking at every document to classify things correctly. So what this dashboard is showing, and this is just showing this year, the number of batches completed by each intake process. We have our new business intake, we have our claims intake, and then we have our claim check intake, which is really just funeral funding and funeral assignments. But within this, I can actually go into double click into an intake process here. I need to be refreshed as well. Try this again.
We did say it would be live.
But while that's kind of loading, our goal with this was to understand, with this one, we're trying to keep accuracy at the forefront of all of this as well. So being able to see how accurate our classification is. And you can see classification here for claim check is almost 100%, 99.9% accurate. And then I've got claims separated out over here where classification is 95% accurate. Extraction is a little different because we don't always have the data there. So that number is actually pretty good considering what we're getting in.
Kyle, did we cover real quickly? I know you were doing 3 fields before, right? Is all you were doing, minimum data. And how many fields are you pulling off of the contracts today?
The new business contracts, we're probably pulling close to 130 fields off of the documents, whereas we were really just pulling base, names, totals, plan types, really not pulling a ton of fields off of that. It was just the bare minimum for us to issue a contract. But now we're getting all the line item details of those contracts, which really allows us to do much deeper reporting, create integrations between all of our different systems, all that good stuff.
Because I remember in conversations we've had in the past is you said that your manual, your handwritten contracts and data coming in was about 25% of your volume. And it kind of stayed at that.
25% of our volume. It was taking us 8 minutes a contract to key just the bare minimum stuff and get all of that into our line of business system. But now it's taken us 2 minutes to key one of those contracts, because now we're using RPA on top of that to take the data that we're putting into Grooper and having it go key the contract for us, which is another huge time saver.
Right.
So, awesome. But here on this intake one, I'm able to dive into each intake process and kind of see how many are we getting via email, how many are we getting on the web. We have an OPEX scanner set up. And then this little red rainbow looking thing here is actually showing the average minutes to complete a batch, which is really allowing us to show where people are maybe struggling a little bit more. But with that, since we're looking at claims right now, I can also show the people that are working in claims and showing what the average time for each person to complete a batch is. So we can see here, Dahlia may be struggling a little bit more with working in Grooper than David is, or Crystal is. And we're really able to kind of see where kind of our bottlenecks are, both internally with our personnel and maybe do more training, but also within the processes. So being able to see, hey, the web processes are much faster than OPEX and email. Why is that? And we can kind of dive into that a little bit. But just like everything else, we're able to look at these stats over here and see what our time savings are, what our current onboarding costs for those people is saving us, what the time for those people working in those processes has saved us. And we can adjust it by a time frame. So I can take off the year to date and I can make it go out to, since we implemented this towards the end of last year. This really helps us keep a pulse on how our processes are doing. Are they successful or not? And it also allows us to justify to our executive teams and really my upline on, do I want to hire more people in this? Do I want to invest more money into new projects? And really my philosophy on this has changed quite a bit, because it used to start with an idea and then we would build to the ROI of it. And now we kind of start with the ROI of a project and build to the solution. So we kind of try to look for how things are going to benefit us long term. I mean, we're looking at a project right now that it caught me by surprise because we do reconciliations for every claim that we do in Texas, just Texas. And those reconciliations involve us comparing what they pre-planned for their funeral versus what they're actually using for the actual funeral when there's a death that occurs. And we do those for the funeral home. One of the services that we provide to our funeral homes that we will perform those reconciliations for them. And we do 150 of those a day, and each one takes 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And so, a little country math here, like if we can get that process down to 5 minutes because Grooper's pulling in the at need and pulling all that off of it, we have the pre need, and then let Grooper do the math, and then we use either APIs or RPA bot to go do the reconciliation for us. So if we're trim that time from 20 minutes down to 5 minutes, we're saving 15 minutes per. We're doing 150 of those a day. That's somewhere around the neighborhood of 10,000 hours in a year, which is 5 people. That's nothing to shake your head at.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah. So really excited for that one. We're real close to being done with that one. But that's kind of the thought process that we go through when we look at these projects is, what is the time savings? And if we're not going to get a time savings, we're not going to do it because we're not going to waste time building something if we're not going to get benefit out of it. But we have to know what that benefit's going to be and be able to show that benefit over time to be able to justify these things going forward.
Yeah, I think one of the things I was really always impressed with is you understood your costs going in, right? I think one of the things I want to make sure people understand on this is one of the biggest challenges we run into in sales is when we're talking about automation with somebody, we ask them, well, how long does this take today? How much does this cost today? And there's usually not a really good understanding of the process today. It's definitely not in the cost piece, which is why I really wanted to have this that's going to be recorded and live for on forever to really help people understand this. That they really, in order to really prove out how well automation works, you got to understand your costs, right? Going in.
Well, then, the title of this thing is talking about AI. And so I'll hit on that for just a second because my boss has been trying to get me to figure out a way to automate how we input funeral homes price lists into our system because it's a huge time consuming project. And a price list for a funeral home, for those not familiar with the funeral industry, is really what everything costs at a funeral. Every funeral home's price list looks different, has different formats to it, has pictures on it.
It's like a menu essentially, right?
Yeah. You're exactly right. It's a menu of what they can buy at the funeral. And we have to fit their price list into our structure so that when we're doing contracts digitally or providing them e-commerce solutions, we have to be able to use their price list. So the process of taking their price list and creating packages and putting in every casket and putting in every color of every casket and every material of every casket based off this price list that looks different for every funeral home seemed like an impossible task. I didn't really see any possible way to do this automatically. But I will say with the release of the AI extract feature, that impossible task became possible for us. It was something I didn't think we'd ever be able to automate because of how different everyone's price list was. But within probably a few weeks of seeing the AI extract feature, I had a proof of concept up and running that was able to take any price list and fit it into the structure that we look for, just using simple instructions to tell it what to look for on the documents, get it to put it into the structure that we've got. And the structure is not simple. I mean, we've got tables of repeating rows that have columns that have different rules to it. And I didn't really configure anything in Grooper other than the instructions for the AI extract to run, and then creating all the fields that needed to happen, and then creating like the lexicons for filling out the drop downs and things like that, and just let it run. And it was pretty amazing. The initial results we got were crazy. And I did the initial results using ChatGPT's 4.0 model, but then we ran it through we created 10 batches and actually hand keyed them to it, and then use the fine tuning
Nice.
feature.
Nice.
And we fine tuned it to a 4.0 mini, which is a cheaper version of that.
1/10 of the cost. Yep.
Yep. And got better results than the 4.0. So we reduced our cost in doing the AI extract by going to a different model and fine tuning, and got better accuracy across the board on that. So
And how many did you have to fine tune or use for the fine tune
10.
batch? 10?
10.
So I want to make sure we're clear on this, guys, because so we used AI extract, which is our model to basically leverage these large language models to do extract, but you can fine tune the OpenAI versions of those models with any Grooper batch. And I just want to that's what I didn't know you'd done that actually. You're sneaky.
We're actually going through that same process with that contract one that we did, because we rolled that
Yeah.
contract piece out before AI extract came out.
Right.
So
Right.
now we changed all of our batches to archive the completed batches so that we can use samples of those. And then we're fine tuning each state and creating a fine tuning model per state. So it's specific to the state that we're doing it on.
Nice.
In the first day that we rolled one out for Minnesota, we saw a 15% bump in accuracy.
And you had already seen a 10% bump in accuracy by using AI extract without a fine-tuned model, right? Okay. So that's yeah, and this is where this is why I like doing these, is because I've been doing this 30 years, and where we are right now in AI is where it's nearly the holy grail. Like, right, we're getting to the point where the innovations are coming so fast, and I think what I love that we've done is if a new model comes out, great, you'll be able to test it through Grooper, right? You'll be able to integrate it directly in. Now, you guys have an enterprise license with OpenAI, right?
We do, but the API is still pay per use.
Oh, okay. Is it? Okay.
The enterprise is really for the
It's for ChatGPT. Okay. Gotcha. Have you tested any of the other models outside of OpenAI?
I haven't, because I've got.
And explain why. Yeah.
Because we've gotten such good results out of the OpenAI. We didn't see the need to. And the other piece of this is we were really particular on how our data was handled. And because of we're an enterprise customer with OpenAI, our data stayed our data, and it wasn't being used to train other models. They weren't putting things out there, because it was really interesting when we first started using ChatGPT. We was kind of the Wild West. People were putting anything they wanted into it, and we had to start putting some governance around it, because it was kind of scary, because we were trying to do some competitive research on some things, and we learned information about one of our competitors through ChatGPT that we didn't realize was happening. It wasn't public knowledge, but they had fed that information into ChatGPT, and it added it to the model, and it allowed us to learn something about our competitor, because they weren't using a closed version of ChatGPT. So just be careful with how you use some of those things.
Let's explain that a little bit more, right? So if you're using the free tools of OpenAI, you are basically handing them your data to train the model. If you're using a paid version, you can, I believe even on Plus, you can go in and turn it off, right? But I think the default is still to have it on, but you can turn it off. If you use the APIs, the data is not used to train models unless you're training your own models. And those fine-tuned models, again, are linked to your API key. So they're not generically available to anybody else, right? So I just want to make that clear. There's been a lot of discussion around privacy and security, and I don't want my stuff on the internet, which reminds us, we were joking before, it reminds us of the original .com days where people are like, well, I'll never put my stuff on the internet, right? And here we are. So yeah, I just want to reiterate that this is an enterprise customer using OpenAI and not having issues with security. It's been, I assume it's been through your security department for vetting, because you guys do a really good job. So I just wanted to make sure that that's really, really clear, that there is a solution forward without having to build this stuff yourself that is secure. And I think there's another piece there, Kyle, that I appreciate you mentioning, is that you've stuck with OpenAI because they are the leader. And I've done a ton of testing. And yes, there are models that are almost as good or as good as 4.0, but they change quite a bit, and then you've got to have them deployed somehow. So who are they deployed through? That brings up the security question. Are you going to deploy it locally, which brings up an enormous cost issue, right? That we haven't really discussed yet, but those are,
and it's tens of dollars.
Right. Compared compared to, I mean, have you looked into what it would cost to build your own inference server?
No, I don't even want to think about
I mean, we've played around with them. I mean, you're talking, at least $100,000 server, probably more, like 5 times that, right? But it depends. So, and we're really close with Dell on that stuff too. So, okay, what else? The audience has been uncharacteristically quiet this time around. Normally, I'm getting interrupted the entire time. So, guys, I know you got to have questions here for Kyle. So, we've got about 7 minutes left. Kyle, did you have anything you wanted to show real quickly before we do it?
I don't know if I have anything else to show, but I will add another thing, another piece that we're doing with the AI extract. There's never a good substitution for building out good extractors within Grooper. So a lot of times what we do is we use AI extract as kind of a secondary option. So we do our normal traditional extractors, and then if those extractors miss, we're using AI to kind of fill in the gaps of anything that may miss, which has also been really helpful to boost those, because those traditional extractors really are going to be more reliable, more accurate. But
Right.
using AI to kind of secondary fill is also really awesome, because it helps you catch things that you aren't catching with your extractors.
And then when you with your dashboard, you can drill down and then find what field is having trouble, and that helps you then target your troubleshooting so that you can either work on the extractor or turn on or off the AI piece then, right?
Yeah. If there's not any questions, I can show our mobile app vitals.
Please go ahead and do that. That's more interesting than any. I think people will get value out of that. And everyone, you have to use Q&A. We just had somebody that said, does Grooper integrate with Snowflake? We can. I'm not familiar with how Snowflake would let us in, but we have a ton of different ways to integrate. So Brent, let me look into that and get you back a valid answer. The short answer would be yes. It would be, we haven't done it before that, I believe. I have to talk to my service team and see. But we should be able to integrate with that without problem. We can import from pretty much any source. It's just worst case we have to we have to talk to their APIs directly to pull documents in.
So what you guys are seeing right here is our mobile app that funeral homes use to kind of manage their caseload. A lot of funeral directors don't feel comfortable typing in front of a family. So a lot of times they'll capture information by handwriting stuff onto forms. So what we've done is tried to create a interface for them to upload those forms and extract it. So this is fully integrated with Grooper. So what you're looking at here is kind of the main case page. They'll go into that, and they'll go into the vitals, which is where we start collecting vital statistics. And then they click on the little QR piece here, and then they use our document scanner to scan these documents into our system, which is then, after we finish scanning everything, you can see the handwriting's not great, and it still does a really good job of capturing all of this. And Passari is our software company that we use for funeral homes. And we pin these documents and we send them to Grooper. Grooper will take it, read it, extract it, and send the information back to our mobile app, where we can then automatically put all of that data back into their system and into the case. And they didn't have to retype any of it, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's just amazing how far the technology has come. And again, if anybody, that was the point of this also, is handwriting. Handwriting has come, recognition has come so far. And it's not just a handwriting recognition. We're doing some stuff to combine the two, right? If you went out and just used Azure by itself, or used Google by itself, or TextRact, which is, in my opinion, a piece of junk. But if you use any of those by themselves, they just don't do it, right? You gotta have the combination of somebody who knows what they're doing. So Kyle, can you briefly describe what made you choose Grooper over others? And this is asking for AI extraction, but I'm going to say, because I know you have a story around it because it was driven by handwriting. So why don't you go ahead and address that real quick?
Yeah, so we actually evaluated 3 other companies when it came to handwriting extraction. And we really chose Grooper over all of them, mainly for the scalability of it, how lightweight it was, and really the ability for us to hook into it integration-wise, configure it the way we want to configure it. It gave us more control over how we do things than the other platforms that we looked at was. It was more user-friendly, being able to kind of customize the user's view of how things looked. Also was a big factor in this, because we do have, our users are going to spend a lot of time in this platform. But really, it was the scalability of it, being able to just kind of get in and make it the way we wanted it to be made. A lot of the other platforms we looked at, we kind of had to fit into their box, and we're not good at fitting into other people's boxes. And they allowed us to kind of build our own box to some degree.
And I just validated, somebody had asked what your title was again. You're VP of Development, right?
I am Vice President of Development. Yeah.
Right. That's what I thought. I just want to make sure I didn't sell you short.
All good.
Okay, we're at the almost end of this. So if anybody has any other questions, anything else, Kyle, we wanted to discuss? I think we covered everything.
I think we hit all the big points.
Right. And just so you guys know, Kyle has been an absolute friend of Grooper. If anybody needs to discuss things or has questions that they want, feel free to reach out. We'll connect you directly with Kyle. He's been very open to discussing this with people and helping everybody through their journey. So if we don't have any other questions, I feel like the auctioneer, we had a professional auctioneer in Lubbock, and I feel like that going once, going twice. Well, great. Well, I appreciate everybody's time, the questions. Thank you so much. We will send a recording out of this to either today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, unless I can go back and beat on Colin really, really hard. Then we might get it out later today. But otherwise, you'll have the link tomorrow. Again, Kyle, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy. I love what you guys are doing with the product. So much love as always. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks much.
Appreciate it.